everyone. I am going to be making a black bean stew tomorrow, and I need to soak the beans. So I thought it would be a good time to talk to you guys about how you can make blue and purple with black beans. So I have a big bag of black turtle beans, is what they're called. And if you get them dried and you soak them so that you can cook with them, that soaking water can make a really beautiful blue. It all has to be done cold because if you heat it, it turns brown. And blue is one of those colors that's really hard to get from nature, especially a color that sticks. Indigo and the indigo, those plants that have that chemical in it, make the best blues. This makes a gorgeous blue, and you will hear some people talk about how it could be fugitive or it might fade. I made a hat 7 years ago now, I think, with the blue of the black beans, and have seen very little fading, maybe a shade or two. But still, I feel like there are some natural dyers who are very strongly against any colors that are going to fade or that are fugitive. They want those colors that are substantive, or the ones that will stay if you add a mordant. I'm all for those colors. I think they're fabulous. I love those plants. Madder, indigo, weld, those are three primary colors that a lot of people will talk about as, really good colors. But the truth of the matter is, if you put any fabric out in the sun, at some point it's going to fade a little bit because the sun's going to bleach it. And over time, the colors do fade, some faster than others, some extremely quickly or just wash right out. I think you should be able to experiment with what you've got around you because it's fun. A lot of people feel hindered by not being able to use those colors or those plants that are known as the best dye plants because they're not available to them. But, maybe you have avocados and you can use avocado pits. Maybe you have beans and you can, cook with those. Maybe you've got turmeric. Turmeric is known for being a gorgeous yellow, orange, golden color, but it does fade over time. But if you know that, then you just re-dye whatever it is that you have. Maybe you have a beautiful scarf or you have a sweater and you just plan to put it in some turmeric every couple of years. So I say, experiment with the colors around you, with the plants around you, get to know what you've got and have fun. The big thing I guess would just be, don't use black beans on a hat that you've knitted and then put it up for sale without saying the black beans can be fugitive and may fade a little bit over time. You don't want to sell something to someone who's going to pay a bunch of money and then have it change in a couple of years. Be honest about what you've done, or don't use the colors if you're unsure how well they're going to stay. But having said that, I want to show you how to use black bean because it's a lot of fun to make this color blue, and a lot easier to access black beans than indigo for many people. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put the beans in this glass container and then cover them with at least 2 to 3 inches more water than beans, and they'll continue to expand, and I will continue to add water over the next 24 hours. I'll give them a stir every so often. It's really pretty simple. You're just basically soaking the beans so that they absorb the water and get mushy. Or not mushy, but they're ready to use. They're not hard beans anymore. And we'll be using the water as our dye. Okay, so let's get started. So, just a quick peek on the beans. I have already added probably another 3 or 4 inches on top because they have grown so much. They've swollen so much. So I'm gonna probably fill it up to here because they just keep on swelling. You want to add enough water that they're covered. And even if you add a little more than that, that's fine. You're not gonna cause them any problems, but it'll give them enough space to swell and put out all the color into their into the bath, and you can see already here how much color is in that water, and it's only been a couple of hours at this point.
Leave a mark in our noise to turn to memories. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone.
All right, it has been a full day. You can see I had to fill this up almost to the top so that the beans could expand and still be covered. There's a bit of a foam on there. It's not stinky, which is good. If I'd let it set for another 24 hours, it probably would get a little bit stinky. What I'm going to do now is pour all the fluid off into this container and let it settle, because there's a sediment that comes out when you soak these beans, and I don't want that sediment to get into my dye bath. So that's going to make it a little more grainy, a little more brownish. It's not going to bring out the bright blues. So I'm going to take all the beans out of here, and I'm going to pour all the fluid into this and let it settle down, and then I will scoop off the fluid from the top to make sure I'm getting only the fluid and not the sediment.
River's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone.
I may have made too many beans. Here's my hand for scale. I think I will only need about a quarter of that for our stew, but maybe I'll make a huge batch of stew and put some in the freezer for the winter. Okay, I think we're ready to go. This is the strained out bean juice. I realize that usually I will take a cup and just slowly skim the stuff off the top skim the water off the tops to keep the sediment on the bottom so I don't have that when I'm dyeing, but I thought, why not just double up a layer of muslin and pour it through there, and that seemed to catch the little bit of sediment that was in there. I've done that before when I'm straining out indigo, and it works really well, especially if it's through a doubled up muslin or a tightly woven silk. So what I've got here is one skein of yarn that has been mordanted with tannin, one skein that has been mordanted with iron, and another that's been mordanted with alum. I thought I'd try some different mordants to see how that affects the color. I might change the pH in the end to show you how that will shift the color a little bit. But we're going to put these in. These are all blue-faced Leicester yarn. So I will plop those in here. I want them to be able to really soak in here, so I'm going to fill this up with water to dilute the bean juice a little bit. It won't change the color, it just gives them more space to flow around. Make sure your yarn is wet before you put it in your dye bath, or it will take up the dye a little unevenly. I decided almost immediately to separate them into separate bowls because it was just way too full in this one for them to move around. So I've got 3 jars. We've got the iron, the tannin, and the alum. And I'm going to let them sit for 2 days. I will give them a little swoosh around in the fluid every so often, a couple times a day, but I'm going to make sure they've got a good 2 days in there to absorb the color. And we're working completely at room temperature. I don't want to heat it up because that's going to make it turn brown. Alright, it's been 2 full days, so we're going to take these babies out of here and give them a good rinse. Here's the one with the iron back here. And then I'm going to take these 2. I have some mordanted sock blanks. This is Merino and Tencel. And I'm going to put them in another batch so that I can have one that stays unchanged and one where I change the pH and show you the difference in the 2. And the reason why I'm doing these is because they are a pure white as opposed to these BFL, which had a lot of yellowish cream color to them, so I wanted to show you on the white what it looks like. Here's my second batch of black bean. This time I measured it out for you so I can give you the specifics. I put 1 pound of beans, black beans, into each of these containers and covered it up until it was a full gallon of water. So this is the water that's left over once I took the beans out and strained out any of the sediment from the bottom. So I'm going to take this one now and put in a little bit of washing soda. That's going to help bring the pH up. I'm going to try and bring it up to about an 8. If you have pH paper at home, then you can test it out. If you don't, just put in a tiny bit at a time and stir it around until you notice it change colors. So I put in a 1/4 teaspoon. Let me see if I can get that to focus again. There we go. I put in a 1/4 teaspoon of washing soda, just a little bit, and stirred it around. And you can see that it's gone to what looks more like, well, on camera it looks kind of brownish. In person it's got kind of a blue-brown color. Okay, it's time for the sock blanks. So like I said before, this is just a merino, 85% merino and 15% tencel. The tencel is a strengthening fiber made from eucalyptus wood pulp. So it may not take the color very much. Probably won't, but the merino, the white merino, hopefully will. And the same as before, we're just going to leave these in here for a couple of days, giving them a stir every so often, and see what we get. And we'll compare those to the blue-faced Leicester fiber. Here they are. This first one on the left, this one right here is undyed BFL. And these 3 are the ones that I dyed with black beans. This one had tannins as a mordant, this one had iron, and this one had alum. So you can see definitely a change in color with the tannins and slightly darker with the iron. These are the 2 that I did on the white merino sock blanks. This one was the same as this, just alum, and they're very close in color. This one is just the slightest shade of a darker blue, and this is the one that I raised the pH with some washing soda. So it brought out the blue a little bit more. In person, this one almost has a pink hue to it, and this one almost a little bit of a green. So here they all are. Hey again! I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. It was a lot of fun, and I love the yarn that came from it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but something with a gradient, I think, because the shades are so go together so beautifully. I know a lot of people have talked about how they're scared to try natural dyeing, whether it's because of the chemicals that might be involved or just not knowing where to start. I feel like just starting in your kitchen with what you have is a really nice way to do it. And something as simple as black beans, even if you know that it fades a little over time, can show you how to do the process, and you don't put a lot of money into it because you're using the beans anyway to make something. Or just, you know, every time you cut up, or every time you have an avocado, chop it into quarters and toss it in a bag in the freezer. Or onion skins. Whenever you peel onions, take the top layer of skins and put them aside in a paper bag. You could even go to the grocery store and ask the people in produce if they'll save the onion skins for you. Or go to a local Mexican restaurant that makes its own guacamole and get the avocado pits from them. there's lots of ways that you can kind of scavenge the materials that you need to get started in the kitchen without feeling like you have to spend a lot of money on dye plants from some other country or a lot of setup. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that whether you're a knitter or you're here because you like some sort of crafting, most of us crafters like the do-it-yourself type craft. We like to figure out how it works, how to make it better, how to give it our own style. So, you know, have fun and play with it and see what kind of colors you create. And if you do some natural dyeing in your kitchen, I would love to see what you've done with it and what colors you get out of what. So yeah, let me know. So I just wanted to chat with you guys about a few things going on in my world right now. Just a little administrative stuff for things that are happening that I wanted to keep you guys up to date with. The first thing is the Fleece Flight Knit Along. I've been hosting that in my Ravelry group for all of you who are wanting to try your hand at, if you want, do some dyeing of your own yarn or using rare breed yarns to put it all together into the Fleece Flight shawl. That's a pattern of mine. And that runs through November 15th, so you've still got lots of time to join in if you'd like. Along with that, the Livestock Conservancy is going to have a booth at Rhinebeck, the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, this year in October. And they are encouraging people to experiment with, try out new to them, rare or endangered livestock, sheep breed, wool, to create the Fleece Flight shawl also, which I think is absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited about it. And they're asking everybody to bring their knitted shawls to Rhinebeck so we can have a group photo. So if you're going to Rhinebeck, if you're participating in the knit along already, you know, I'd love to meet you guys. I'd love to see what you've created. So there's more information about that knit along for the Livestock Conservancy on their Facebook page. I think that's where most of the details are. But basically they're saying knit something out of rare breed yarn, conservation breed fleeces, and bring that to Rhinebeck and show it off. So maybe I'll see you guys there. Another thing that is going on right now that I've mentioned, I think in the last podcast, but I'm super excited about, is the Winter Tea and Herb Exchange. I am running that through my Ravelry group, which is Ninja Chickens on Ravelry. And it's as simple as you sign up, you get assigned to a small group, and that group exchanges herbs and teas with each other. It could be things that you've grown in your own garden. It could be pre-packaged teas that are your favorites. You will send, and once we have all the groups set up, I'll let you know how many teas you send to each person, or herbs you send to each person. So if you have, for example, a group of 7 people, you send 4 things to 6 other people. So you would send, and they could be in an envelope because it's only 2 teaspoons of each thing, so 1 day's worth of tea. So say you send prepackaged things, you'd send 4 prepackaged teas in an envelope to 6 other people. Those things will then be opened beginning December 1st on a daily basis. You'll open one of your prepackaged teas and enjoy your tea or herbs. If it's herbs for cooking, you can put it in your cooking that night. If it's herbs and herbal tea, you can make your teas. Basically, it's an exchange as a way to build community, meet new people, try new things, and give yourself a little bit of calm and holiday season every morning when you open your little gift. So if you go to the Ravelry group, you'll find all the details. There's a bunch of people already signed up. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's super simple. And because it's just a simple prepackaged tea or a small amount of herbs, it's something that can, in general, be put in an envelope and be sent overseas for probably no more than $2 for the envelope. The only thing you'll have to be aware of is certain countries have rules as far as what can come in. Some of them will only accept prepackaged things, or if it is herbs that are in a little baggie or a homegrown thing, it will need to be labeled a certain way to get into the country. So know what your country's rules are, and when you get in your groups, then you guys can exchange details to make sure everybody's able to get their packages. All right, cool. I hope you guys will sign up. If you're not interested but you know someone who is, pass the word along. And if they're not on Ravelry, if it's someone who's not even a knitter or crocheter and you think they would like to join, I've posted about it in my Instagram. couple weeks ago, and I'll post again. Have them get in touch with me, and I can make sure they're on the list of people who can do exchanges. Another thing I wanted to remind you guys of are the classes that are coming up. If you're interested in learning about eco-printing and natural dyeing, I'm going to be doing a bundle dyeing class at Local Cloth, which is an Asheville arts group, and we're going to be working with silk and cotton and pillowcases, so a bunch of different methods for eco-printing. And then I'm also going to be at Vogue Knitting Live in Columbus the first weekend in November. And there I'll be doing 2 classes on eco-printing, one with silk and one on sock blanks, as well as a natural dyeing 101 for people who have never done it before or who are scared to step into it, all the basics on how to do natural dyeing. And I'm also doing a class called Herbs for Food, Medicine, Dye, and Fiber, because I'll have a couple that I can talk about that produce all 3 of those first things, food, medicine, and dye, and are also fiber plants. So if you're going to be there, I'd love to see you guys. And if you need any more information about my classes that are coming up, I have that all on my website, which is ninjachickens.org. I also post things often on Instagram, which is ninja.chickens, and you can follow me there too. Okay, so as far as knitting, I will hopefully have a finished product for you next time I see you, but I have not been able to get that off the needles yet. And I love it. It's a great product. Project I've been working on, the Good Day Tea by Annie Lupton, and it's a beautiful knit, and I love the yarn I'm working with. It's just been super busy, so I haven't had as much time to sit down and work on it. But I'm close, so hopefully next time I see you. I have, however, finished some yarn. So I'm going to come up close and show it to you because it deserves a close-up. So this is 100% Targhee, and it was a braid that I got from a trade, and I'm not sure exactly who I got it from. And I know that it's from a company called Generations Fiber, and I don't see them on the web anymore, but the braid was actually absolutely beautiful, and I love how it turned out. It reminds me a lot of the spin cycle yarns. So what I did for this, for spinning, is I did what's called a fractal spin. And some of you guys will know what that means, but I'll explain it. You can do it in a number of different ways. Basically, the idea is from fractals, which is one thing that then splits into a certain number, and each of those split into the same number. It's a mathematic thing. So for this, I took and split the braid into 2 strands, right? So I split it in half. Half of that I put aside and spun it as it was in that order of color. The other half I split into 4 braids and spun I keep saying braids, I split it up in 4 and spun that end to end. So it was a shorter repeat of the colors. You could do that in many different ways. So that was only a 2-ply. I could have taken it and split it in half, right? And then put one aside, taken the other one and split that in half, and taken those 2 and split those in half. Or you can split it into 3 and then 3 and then 3. As you pare it down, each piece or strand of fiber gets split into the same amount. If that makes any sense. Look up fractal trees or just Google fractals and you'll see what that means. But how it impacts the spinning then is to place the repeat of colors at different points in the yarn. So if I'd just taken it and split it into 2 halves and then spun it that way, I would get a bunch of white, a bunch of blue, a bunch of brown. Like, it would have the colors meeting up. If I split it and then split it again into a different division, then the colors are it would be a bunch of white from one braid and then white, brown, blue, all the way down that white. Do you see what I'm saying? It's very hard to explain this, but it's a really cool way of getting neat color repeats in the fiber, and I love the way it turned out. Having said that, I never have any idea what to do with this kind of yarn. The only thing my brain can come up with is to put it with something that's a solid so that it stands out. But Andrea Mowry, many of you know her as Drea Renee Knits, has come out with her shift group of patterns, and the one that appeals to me so much is called the night shift shawl, which, you know, I was a night shift nurse for many years, so that right there speaks to me. But she has paired 6 or 7 different spin cycle yarns which have the same kind of look, all in one shawl with no solid colors that I can tell. And it looks amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm hoping to take this and maybe a few other hand spun that I have that are similar in style and a few of the spin cycle yarns that I have and put it all together and make that shawl. I don't wear shawls a whole lot. I guess in the cold of winter when I'm in my house and it's a little chilly, if the fire hasn't warmed up the house yet, I will wear them. But I probably have 30 or 40 shawls in my stash, and I have a favorite 2 or 3. But I really like this one, and I can see making it super big and just wrapping up in it, and, you know, watching a movie or knitting or hanging with the family or whatever, I don't know. It just feels like a one of those ideal winter moments where the candles are lit and the hot chocolate's, you know, being drunk and you're wrapped in your shawl. So I'm gonna imagine that and hope I can bring that to fruition this winter. So there is that yarn. The other yarn I wanted to show you is not one that I spun, but one that I just recently received from Blacker. Blacker Yarns, some of you may know, comes out with, I'll bring this closer in just a sec, comes out with a birthday yarn every year. It's a special edition that they only have for a certain amount of time. I think it's their 14th birthday. Yes, it's their 14th birthday this year. So every year they come out with a special yarn. And I just have to say, so I've heard people complain before about how farm yarns or non-superwash yarns or non-merino yarns, they'll call them rustic, and what they mean by rustic is it's itchy. It makes you scratch. It's not soft. Rustic to me, I like to use as just something to describe a yarn that truly feels like it's from the farm as opposed to from the factory, if that makes sense. Even though, of course, the yarn has to go through a factory mill often to get spun. There's just a difference in feel. It feels more homey. It feels more close to the sheep. So this is what I would call a rustic yarn as far as it feels close to the farm. However, it is really soft. Like, this isn't what many of you would think of as a scratchy rustic yarn. It's super soft, and I'll tell you why. This is what they put in it. So it has 40% natural white and fawn English merino, so it's got that soft, fluffy merino in there. But it also has 17% fawn and gray Shetland, 26% blue-faced Leicester, and 17% silk noils that they recycled from the process when they make their samite yarn. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it has a lot of silk in it. So these are really nice. They're very soft and squishy. It's a beautiful blend. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. I love the colors. I think they go together really well. But if you have any ideas for a small project or a bigger project that can incorporate something like this, I'd love to hear your ideas. And I'll give you a full review on how it knits up. They have a really beautiful range of colors that they're coming out with, and it's all going to be out Friday, September 20th. That's when it gets released to the world. And it's going to have what they call 3-ply and sport. In the States, I would call it fingering weight, and probably closer to a DK. So that's the weights. They'll have 2 weights, and here's the colors. So here are the 6 colors they'll have available. Here are the 2 that they sent to me. They're looking a little bit more bright on camera. This is a more muted green. It's a little more of a gray green. It's not as vibrant. So hopefully you guys will check them out. I really love the yarns that they have and what they're doing for the local economy and helping local farmers with their creating yarns out of their fleeces. I think that's it for today. I hope you guys are doing really well. I will see you in the next couple of weeks. This Saturday I'm going to an indigo harvest down in South Carolina, so I hope to have some pictures for you from that. And yeah, have a great couple of weeks. Enjoy your crafting. Enjoy the beginning of fall. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.